The Duterte administration is set to hold more public consultations and finalizing a peace agreement with communist rebels. According to presidential advisor on the peace process, Jesus Dureza, this is the reason for the postponement of the scheduled resumption of stalled talks with the Reds later this month. Let's hear the full report from Rocky Ignacio.
President Rodrigo Duterte directed the government peace panel to readjust the resumption of peace talks with CPP-NPA-NDF that's supposed to start this June 28 in Norway.
In our common effort to make sure that we achieve a conducive and enabling environment for peace, President Rodrigo Duterte instructed us to engage our bigger peace table, the general public, as well as other sectors in government as we work to negotiate peace with the communist rebels. Consequently, the initial timeline that our back-channel team had worked on with their counterparts, the CPP and PNDF, across the table had to be necessarily adjusted.
Secretary Dureza said the government will implement public consultations as well as with the private sector to discuss provisions acceptable to all stakeholders. The government peace panel had already advised the leadership of the CPP, NPA, NDF and the Norwegian government as the third-party facilitator of the peace talks.
The government peace panel, in cooperation with the private sector, will continue on its effort to engage those who earnestly seek peace across the peace table. But it is equally important that the stakeholders on the ground must also be equally engaged through consultations to ensure that all those consensus points and agreements forged in the negotiations table have palpable support from them.
Secretary Dureza added that this is part of the government's action not to put into waste the last chance to attain peace with the communist rebels.
The almost 50 years of intermittent and oftentimes disrupted peace negotiations with the communist rebels across several presidencies need a close study for lessons to learn from, to ensure that our last chance to put a dignified closure to the armed rebellion will not be squandered away.
Despite of readjusting the target resumption of peace talks, informal talks with the Reds will continue in Norway. The president's offer to facilitate the return of CPP founding chair Jose Maria Sison in the Philippines stands.
Tuloy pa yung possibility na kung gusto niyang umuwi, susuportahan siya ng ating Pangulo, hindi lang sa expenses, but actually to guarantee his safety. And then, sabi nga ng Pangulo, di ba recently, pag umuwi siya rito, and then hindi natuloy yung peace talks, may problema, I will guarantee that I will even see to it that he returns back.
Secretary Dureza assured President Duterte's commitment to end insurgency in the country. Rocky Ignacio for The Nation.